Hello and welcome into the Alabama Football Report. I am Tom Downey here once again with a football roster preview. This time we're taking a look at the defensive line, the interior of the defensive line. So pass rushers will come another day. We're focused on that defensive tackle grouping here on today's show. If you guys want even more positional breakdowns, then type me in the comment section so my bosses will allow me to continue to do these. I actually really enjoy them. It's the closest thing we've got to talking ball for probably a few more months from that perspective. So flood the comment section with some me's. As we go through the groupings, it's always important to remember who is gone. First up, there's notable NFL draft pick Byron Young. As I've said before, the best Byron Young in the SEC, stuck at Tennessee. 548 snaps last year. That is a significant loss. DJ Dale wasn't a starter, quote-unquote, but he basically played starter snaps and was a key part of the rotation. And then the big change, I'm glad we waited on doing the defensive line video, Jamil Burroughs is gone. He has transferred out of the program, whether by choice or forced transfer following an incident with the assistant strength coach in which he allegedly hit him. And yeah, you can't do that and expect to stick around even at Alabama. So the top returners then break down like this. There's Tim Smith, who I think is actually a little bit underrated. Maybe that's the NFL draft nerd in me there. Jaheim Oatis, who I'm quite excited about. Very glad to see Justin Eboigbe back after a scary injury last year. He's healthy now. He's cleared. Jah-Marien Latham is back, and Damon Payne, no relation to Daron Payne, are your top returning snap getters, along with 4 newcomers. There's 5-star James Smith, who we've talked a lot about. Justice Haynes. We have and will continue to talk a lot about Caleb Downs, Caden Proctor. Maybe we shouldn't rule out James Smith making an impact in year 1. Jordan Renard, which always throws me because I went to college with a kid named Jordan Renard. So 2 different letters, very different people. One is not a borderline NFL caliber player and current, top 60 recruit. Hunter Osborne and Edric Hill as well. Not every name we'll discuss today is actually on this initial 3 defensive line depth chart. So it's like you're in that 3-4 base, right? Here's your defensive end, your 5 technique, your nose guard, which is going to be Jaheim Oatis. Tim Smith can do some 3 technique or 5 technique. So your 2 defensive ends, quote unquote, but they're not really pass rushers, and your more nose guard, run-stopping player. I got Justin, Jaheim, and Tim Smith. We almost got the triple Gs. Maybe we can make it if James Smith ends up earning a job. It'll be the 3 Js up front. So what is your confidence level in the Alabama defensive line as a unit? We're going to go through player by player here more in depth momentarily, but if you have some thoughts, I want to hear them. Head down to the pinned comment and scale it 1 to 10. 1 on the low end, 10 on the high end. If the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage and go vote. First up, a returner who is also kind of a newcomer since Justin, again, I believe it's pronounced Eboigbe, didn't play that much this past year, missed a lot of time due to injury, had a scary neck injury, only had 11 tackles, actually, in 2022. Half a TFL has been his trend over the past 3 years. Our Bama football, I'll go insider, nerd, super fan, producer Chris, who, of course, went to Alabama. He's excited about Justin. I am, too. You've seen flashes out of him over the past couple of years, especially with Jamil Burroughs gone. Bama's banking on him playing a key role. He's coming back for his 5th year. He's a 5th-year senior. I think there's some very viable hope and buzz around him moving forward for the Crimson Tide. The player I am most excited about, though, is Jaheim Oatis. And this is because at my core, I just love big defensive nose tackles that can stop the run. And I think that's Oatis' game pretty heavily, who maybe can offer some more pass rush ability. What's very important here is that Oatis was 400-plus pounds in high school. Because, high school's not maybe the best coaching or weight room or nutrition plan or whatever. He's down under 330 now, losing about, he says, 100 pounds in total. That is insane and awesome for him and for his college career and NFL hopes. There's been a lot of success in recent years of Alabama defensive tackles, oftentimes nose guards. Thinking of Daron Payne. Maybe Oatis can be your next high-end impact nose guard there. He's flashed plenty as a freshman. I'm excited to see what he can do this upcoming season. There's also Tim Smith, who the numbers do not stand out to you, but I think he's able to help as what you often see, and I call the dirty work. A lot of these defensive tackles in a 3-4 scheme, the guys playing anywhere between the guards' inside shoulder to the tackle's outside shoulder, those guys do the dirty work. They're taking on double teams. They're freeing up the Will Andersons. They're doing some stunts. They're keeping life clean for the off-ball linebackers behind him. I think Tim Smith does that stuff really well, and I would not be surprised if he got drafted and has a much better year this upcoming season. Now, we would have talked about Jamil Burroughs here, but he's gone. So the next man up on our list is Jah-Marien Latham. 4 tackles, hasn't played that much as a redshirt junior this upcoming season, but there have been some flashes, most notably in various, fall ball and spring ball, with really 3 of the top 6 defensive linemen gone from a snap count perspective. That primes JML, as I'll call him, for a potential breakout season. He will, however, have to hold off 5-star freshman James Smith, the number 1 recruit out of Alabama in this past recruiting cycle. He was 26th overall, the number 2 defensive lineman. He is a 5-star. There's been some growing buzz around him, not coincidentally tied into the drama around Jamil Burroughs, but still, you got a 5-star recruit, top player from Alabama. Probably will be more of a rotation for him than like an instant starter type of deal, but there is a very real chance he can make a sizable impact, for a freshman at least, for Alabama this year. Now, if you want to stay up to date on everything Alabama football, from the news, recruiting updates, to, hey, we'll do edge rusher, linebacker, at least defensive backs, if not corners and safeties. We will not be doing kickers because I don't think there are people. Roster previews, we have you guys covered. So if you haven't already, please subscribe for more free Alabama football videos. Damon Payne is next up here. I remember when we were doing our recruiting breakdowns, and I went, wait a minute. There's a D. Payne who plays defensive tackle going to Alabama. It's got to be the Ron's brother. No relation there. Didn't play much last year. 7 tackles, a half TFL. Listed at 6'4", 303. Strikes me as someone who will play kind of that non-nose guard position up front. But again, with Burroughs gone, that's a lot of snaps. You're probably looking at upwards of maybe even 300 snaps or so to go around to various players. Tim Keenan, next up here. Only played in 2 games last year, had a tackle, didn't have that many snaps, frankly, but he does have some nice size, 6'2", 338. Obviously, Jaheim Oatis is the top nose guard. DJ Dale kind of played some of that secondary nose guard role, or 1B, 1A role at that spot. So there are some snaps there to go around. Keenan is a good name to keep an eye out for. Monkel Goodwine is next up here, the 4-star recruit from the class of 2021. He was a top 100 recruit. And if we're sleeping on anybody along this defensive line, I wonder if Goodwine's the name to monitor because he is a former 4-star recruit. He was the number 12 defensive lineman, number 92 overall. He is a redshirt sophomore, I believe, if my math ties up correctly. Yeah, redshirt sophomore this year. This is the time you want to break out. Otherwise, it might not end up happening in many cases at Alabama. Some more names to get to. Who do you think is the best defensive lineman on the Alabama football roster? Again, defensive lineman, not edges, so we're not going to put Dallas Turner on that. That's the next video. In the meantime, drop that best defensive lineman name in the comment section. A couple others I want to at least mention on the roster. Anquin Barnes, who we'll come back to. Isaiah Hastings played a little bit last year. Curtis Perry, the redshirt freshman. He's probably a year away from making an impact. 3 other freshmen, Edric Hill, Hunter Osborne, and Jordan Renaud, who we'll get to here more in depth. I want to begin with Anquin Barnes. He flashed a little bit in the A-Day spring game. 3 tackles, not a lot, but that is notable, given that was the most among all interior defensive linemen in that game. Is that reading too much into it? Maybe, maybe not, but at 6'5", 314, that's size you don't often find. Maybe he's a darker horse sleeper as a redshirt sophomore. Finally, I do want to make note of Jordan Renaud. I think he can play kind of edge and defensive end. Maybe ends up being a bit of a hybrid player for Alabama. We might mention him in the edge rusher grouping as well. For now, we'll put him at that kind of defensive end spot. I think he's still a bit more raw and needs some time. He's a prime redshirt candidate. But hey, there's a top 60 recruit on the roster as a freshman. There are a lot of teams out there that would be their best recruit. So I at least wanted to mention him a little bit more.